Greetings, everyone. Lars here. Chiming in fall 2020 to give you a little bit of an example of something that's similar to your homework assignment for Unit 3. Now, Unit 3, I explained it in the 101 document, and I probably said it in other videos that you've seen, is first half of this course you learn Python, second half of the course you're using Python. So now, in the 7 weeks that we've been coding, you've gotten the basics. You've gotten basic data types. You've gotten booleans. You've gotten if, then, else, loops, different control structures. You know about sequences, okay? You know about strings. You know about lists. You know about string manipulation, okay? Now, this unit, we're learning about functions. We're learning about modularizing our code. We're learning about file I/O. Okay, we're learning about libraries. After that, the big picture basic stuff is done. And then we're going to be using Python to do different things, learning a little bit about computer science, learning about another way of crafting our programs called object orientation, which you'll see is fun. You'll get a kick out of that. Okay, so we're going to be using Python after this. Computer science, like mathematics, is like a pyramid. The basic stuff you learn, you're going to constantly use it. Then you're going to build on top of it, build on top of it, build on top of it. I don't want to give you an assignment like assignment 2 for Unit 3 and just leave you in the ocean, though. So I am going to do what I always call a homework assignment of my very own. And what I often do, and what I'm going to do tonight, is I am going to read in a file of 3,000 random numbers. And what I want to do is I want to pick out the random numbers that are palindromes. Palindrome, if you don't know, is something that reads the same forwards as it does backwards. And we're going to use a lot of the techniques and a lot of the different things that you're going to do in your harsh add assignment. Okay, except I'm not doing harsh adds. I'm not doing sevens in the second column. I'm going to be looking for palindromes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go get my data. And what you learn when you start doing computer science classes, if you want random numbers, you go to the random number generator at random.org. And I'm going to come up here. I'm going to click numbers. I'm going to click integers. And I want to generate, let's do what I said and grab 3,000 numbers between, let's say, 1 and 10,000 and format them in 10 columns. Just that easily. I say get numbers, and it gets me those numbers. Those of you who are fans of mathematics and John von Neumann know that if you think you're getting random numbers from software, you are living in sin. That said, for our purposes, we should be fine for this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of this. Look at all those numbers. All right. I've got those numbers. I'm going to hit Control-C to paste, and then up here, because I'm using a Windows box, I'm going to type in Notepad, and I'm just going to go to Notepad and paste those numbers right. That easy. I have a file full of numbers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say Save As, and I'm going to go to a directory I set up called My Homework Fall 2020, and just very simply, I'm just going to call it the numbers. The numbers and .txt. Could be .dat, could be .txt, could be whatever. So I now have a, dun, 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 that would have given me a problem. It's the R numbers, not the numbers. I'm going to call it the numbers. So I'll just save it again. So now I got 2 data files in there. All right. So now we've got data to play around with. I want to go into these numbers and pull out the palindromes. Now, it's too hard to sit here and eyeball it and do it. Do I see any? Just by looking really quick. I don't. One up, there you go, 55. By definition, a single digit is a palindrome, right? And 55 is a palindrome, saying forward is backward. So we know we got at least one. We know we're going to get a 55. There's an 11, so that's a palindrome. So we're going to figure all of this stuff out as we go along. All right, I don't need you any more random numbers. So now what am I going to do? I'm going to do one of my favorite things, and I'm going to start grabbing the Python. First thing I'm going to do is I am going to create a function that finds a palindrome for me. And the reason I do it is because it's a neat trick. I'm going to say new file. I will call it palindromes. I will create a function. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to say define, and I'm going to call my function isPal, because when I call it in the code, it's like I'm asking a question. Is this a palindrome? And then it's going to return true or false. So I'll call this variable pPal for potential palindrome. And then what do I want to do? It's a clever little trick that deals with string manipulation. We've been dealing with it. I'm going to say if pPal is the same as pPal, but I'm going to slice into it. Defaults. What are the defaults? Okay, the very beginning and the very end. But with that third item, I'm going to say -1. So what's that going to do? It's going to start on the other end of the thing and count and go backwards, right? So what is that going to be with a string? It's going to be the string backwards. So basically what you're going to do is you're seeing if the string is the same as the string backwards. It's the definition of a palindrome last time I looked. So basically, if that's the case, all we have to do is return true. If it's not the case, we return false. Done. That's simple. Okay? I'm going to test my code. And I'm going to say print isPal. What's one of our favorite palindromes? Radar. I'm going to save, and it's going to want to put it on my desktop. And I'm going to say, no, no, no. Don't put it on my desktop. Go to Python stuff. Go to, look at all this Python junk. Python data science. Go to my homework, fall 2020. And we are going to call this, we're going to call it palib, because we are going to make a library out of this eventually. So I'm going to call it palib. And then what do I want to do? I'm going to run my code. And when I run my code, I see true. Okay? What if it puts true for everything? So let's test that. False. All right, good. Let's start messing around with the numbers. I know it's going to get an 11, so will that be true? Yes. I know it's going to get a 55. Will that be true? Yes. I'm going to get some numbers in there. Oh, no, that is a palindrome. I don't want to do that. What if I did 551? False. All right, I think, call me crazy, we're in pretty good shape here. So if I give it a single digit, as advertised, that is also true. So I think we're good here. I think we've got a function that's returning a palindrome if we have a palindrome, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment out this code right here. I'm going to save, and then I'm going to forget about it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say File, New File. Now remember, if I'm going a little bit quick, it's because I want to show you that this is not that hard. It's no great shakes. Plus, it's a YouTube video. You can stop it. You can look at the code. You can go as slow as you want. You can even slow the speed of the voice and slow the actual video if you want. You know, a lot of people, a popular way to go through tutorial videos is to speed it up to like 1.5 or 2 times. And then everybody is going more quickly than they usually would. I'll just call this main program. And we will get to the purpose of the enterprise. What do we want to do? We want to read in those 3,000 numbers, and we want to examine them one by one and find out which ones are palindromes. And then we'll, I don't know, we'll count them, we'll print them, and then we'll even add them up and get a little practice doing that stuff. All right? So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to read in my data. So I'm going to get a file. What am I going to do? I'll call it F. I'll say open. I won't set up the variable. I'll just say the numbers.txt, comma. I'm going to open it for reading, and I should be good. What did I do wrong? I didn't put that there. So now it should return properly. And then I'm going to do data. Assign it f.read. Okay. And then, because I'm a good file citizen, I'm going to close my file. And then, so we can incrementally check along, I'm going to print the data and make sure we're good. So now I got to save this program. Where am I going to save? It wants to put me in the desktop again. Bad news, Windows. Windows is bad that way. Just go to the last directory I was in. Is that so hard? Is that asking for so much? Windows, Yemeni, Christmas. All right, where am I going? My homework. Where's the M? Am I in the right place? Oh, I want to be Python data science. Don't worry, I'll get it. It's the end of the day, so I'm full of coffee. There is my code. What are we going to call this? We'll call this main prog. I forget what I have you calling it in the assignment, so I'm calling mine main prog. All right, so now when I run main prog, to save some time, it squeezes 300 lines in there, but let's double click it and take a look at it, and you can see, there we go, there's our data file. Okay, so we read it in all in one big string, and then we printed out our string. So data contains a massive string that holds on to all of our data. Now, that's not doing us a lot of good in that format, because we want to look at those individual numbers. Now, as I usually say it, we're not regular people. Okay? Remember the Matrix? You had the people who could sit there and look at all the green lines going up and down the screen and actually see what was going on. Well, you're starting to become that because you're a programmer. When I look at all those numbers, I don't see a bunch of spaces. I don't see a bunch of columns. I see numbers, tab, numbers, tab, numbers, tab, until I get to the end. And at the end, you know what I see? I see a \n. I see a new line. And then I go down here and I check it out. We want to get rid of those things because we don't want them. We want to create a list with all our numbers in it. So we are going to clean our data. I am going to push that down because we'll use it again later. And then we'll say clean our data. So what are we going to do? I'm going to take data and I'm going to assign it the result of data dot, but I'm going to do something called replace. What am I going to replace? I'm going to replace those \n's with \t's. Okay? So what am I doing? I'm over here in my number file. I'm going to come here to the end of the line, and that \n, I'm going to make it a regular old \t like all of these. So there won't be any, the only thing that's going to end the line is the program you have displaying it. Okay? There'll be nothing separating those numbers but \t's. And actually, you know what? Let's take a look at that. My print data should work. Save, F5. It says squeeze 300 lines, but watch this. If I stretch out the program, look down here, the numbers stretch out because there's no more new lines. The only thing separating these things is a tab. Okay? And that's what we want because this is the secret. Come back to me. Come back. Oh, do the right thing. All right, we'll just leave that there for the time being. All right. The second thing we're going to do, why is that space there? My OCD was alerted immediately. Yes, because God forbid you hit the cap lock. Data. Now what are we going to do? Now we're going to use a method called split. And what does split do? Split splits a string whenever it finds a certain character, what we would call the delimiter. Okay? And it takes the individual items and it puts them in a list. And a list is what we want because a list is something that we know how to iterate through after we did the second part of Unit 2. So what am I going to use as my delimiter? What's separating all the numbers? Boom. So now what returns from that is a list with all of the numbers in it. At least I hope so. At least I hope it doesn't make a fool out of me. So it squeezed the text into 329 lines. Look at this. Starts with a bracket and has all of the numbers in my list. Okay? Now, they're strings. All right? They're not necessarily integers, and we don't have to cast them, although we're going to do that in a second. But now we have a list. What can we do with a list? We can iterate through it. So what do we want to do? First thing, I'm not going to print the data every time, so let's comment that out. I'm going to say find the palindromes. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that by using the function we wrote. Okay? But I have it in another file, so what do I want to do? I want to use the import pallib. Okay? So I do it at the top of my programs when I do imports. So I'm going to type import. And I'm going to type pallib. Boom. Done. So now if I want to find the palindromes, what am I going to do? We're going to do some initial variables at first up here. But first I'm going to say for I and data. I don't need a range function. I have a list already, so I'm going to go iterate through it. If palib dot is pal of I, because I'm reading in my list item, so I'm checking my numbers. If that is equivalent to true, which means it's a palindrome, what do I want to do? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to print the number, and then I'm going to what? Add it to click a counter, right? So I'll say P for pals plus equals 1, and because that doesn't exist yet, I'm going to want to make sure it does, and I'm going to say 0. So I'll initialize that to 0. Remember, when you're doing counters, what does that really mean? It really means P is equivalent to P plus 1, right? And we look at expressions from right to left, which means the first thing that's going to look at is P plus 1. Well, you know what? P doesn't exist yet. If I just put that line in there and there's a P on the right-hand side, well, P doesn't exist yet. Python's going to say, hey, what are you trying to pull here? What are you trying to pull here, mister? So what I want to do is I want to create my variables up here and initialize them. Trying to think we'll grab a C for a counter, and maybe we'll grab an A for an accumulator down the road, you think? So let's count the palindromes like that. We may as well keep an overall counter, which is going to count all of the numbers, and we will keep an accumulator, and we'll add up the palindromes. Now remember, I got strings. So maybe what I want to do is cast that string to an integer before I add it to my accumulator. And then else, if it's not a palindrome, well, then I'm just going to count it because I do have a counter for just the regular numbers. Now, if I did my data cleaning and turned things into a list properly, that's going to be 3,000. So at the end of the process, C should be 3,000, right? There it is. I believe that is correct. Print. There were, comma, P palindromes. We don't know how many there are going to be because we just grabbed the data. So I have never done this, and there's not been palindromes. And I don't know what the odds of that are. And we know at least the 11 and the 55 are there because we saw it. Their sum was A. Print. There were C. Total. Good enough. So we know that C should be 3,000. And then we're going to figure out how many palindromes our program gets, and it'll tell us what their sum is. If it works. My goodness, I hope it does. I don't know. We'll see if it blows up. So I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to run it. Invalid syntax. I won't have it. Int I. What am I doing wrong there? I want to run int. Oh, maybe you think. Somebody's using their Java brain when they should be using their Python brain. All right. A little slow at first. Gains a little speed at the end of the day. 47 palindromes. There's the sum. Who cares? And we are correct. We looked at 3,000 total numbers, so we know our cleaning was correct. But what I really want to do is come up here at my list and make sure I'm doing it right, yeah? So 393, good. 414, good. All 8s, good. 5885, yes. 1771, yes. What I'm seeing here is all palindromes. I go to the bottom, I see our 55. So we know we got our 55. I see a 22. I see the 11. So at the end of the day, there were 47 palindromes in that list of 3,000 random numbers that we just grabbed from randomnumbers.org. And when we summed them up, we got 139,438. Okay? I'm putting this code up here on the screen. You can see it looking at the video. Code it up yourself if you want. Play around with things. But what did we do? We took a large file of numbers, okay? We read it into a main program. We cleaned it up So now we have that number in a list, and we can iterate through that list. And then what did we do? We ran it through some criteria. I only did one criteria, whereas you're going to do 3, okay? But my criteria was tell me if it's a palindrome. So I have a library of my very own, no main program here, just the function, that tells me if something's a palindrome. And I use it here in my main program, and I print out my results. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the only 2 things I'm not doing here that you need to do is, 1, I'm not doing things with output files. You need to figure that out for yourself. And there you have 3 different things to look for. You want to look for harshads. You want to look for a harshad that has a 2 in the second column, and you want to look for, no, a 7 in the second column. That's why we call it siete. And you want to look for the constant, Hodges, right? Which is what, 14? If you're a Met fan, you know what that means. So, yeah, right? How long have we been going here? I'll tell you exactly how long we've been going here. 21 minutes. So the bulk of the big thing you have to do is 20 minutes. Okay? Yeah, maybe I've been coding a little bit longer than you guys. But as you can see, it's no great shakes. It's not difficult concepts, especially if you've been going along, doing the slides, doing all the reading, and doing all the stuff, which, from what I can see, most of you are. Because the grades are coming in good. When I do get questions, I get good questions. So, you know, you guys, seems to me like you guys are getting the job done. You guys are doing things properly. All right? This is the one where you're going to procrastinate, and people are going to be, sure, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I will do that when I do announcements. But for the time being, what did we do? We took a file of random numbers, okay, that were formatted in columns with tabs and with new lines and with all of that hullabaloo. What did we do? We read it in. We cleaned it up, so we got our numbers in a list. Yeah, it was a list of strings, but we were able to use it because what did I want to do? I wanted to look for palindromes, so strings were fine with me. As a matter of fact, I utilized the fact they were strings when I did my little trick right there, okay? And then what did I do? I jumped into a loop. I didn't use range. I didn't have to. I had a list. Went through every item in the list and looked to see if it was a palindrome by calling my function in my library. Maintained a whole bunch of different counters, kept my information, printed it out at the end. 20 minutes. Okay? So don't get freaked out when you see all the deliverables and all the craziness and the big program for 3 isn't that bad. Plus, with the 3 deliverables, 1 should be done already because it was your first assignment. So if you took a look at that and you got it done, you're like, hey, okay, already done. You just got to take that code, drop it down in a library, and you're there. All right? All right. I'm going to leave this code up on the screen while we do some announcements. And really, there's not that much to say with announcements. I want to keep you up to date with deliverables. I'm shooting this Thursday night on the 15th. Unit 3 is going to end in 8 days. Okay? So next Friday, everything's going to be due for Unit 3. The 20th is when the post is going to be due for the discussion post. Then on the 22nd, 8 o'clock that night, the quiz is going to open up. You'll have 30 hours to do the quiz. Okay? 4 hours one day, 24 hours on the final day of the unit, and then we spill over an extra 2 hours into the next day. All right? Unit 4 is probably going to open up that Saturday. I'll probably open it up later on in the day. That said, you can take the weekend off and start working on that on Monday. Okay? Your midterm is due on the 30th. So you've got 2 more weeks. All right? The Harvard videos, just watch them. You don't have to load any code. You don't have to do any examples. Just watch them. All right? Learn Python the hard way. Do some Code Academy. Keep some notes. Jot down some ideas. Write that paper. Do not give me a pro and con list. This is a paper. It's exposition. You have to write, and enough with the phone. You have to write and tell a story. Okay? Don't give me something with pictures. It's a 5-page paper. Don't give me a table of contents. I've had people do that before. Don't give me a table of contents with 5 pages. All right? Just 5 pages, double-spaced, of exposition. Describe your experience with each of the 3 resources, then do a compare and contrast and rank them, And then at the end, compare them to traditional instruction. Not a heavy lift. 2.5 pages, and then the magic of double spacing makes it a 5-page paper. It's magic. All right, so everybody's doing well. So there's not really a whole lot to beat the drum about. Everybody's going through the slides. The one thing that I stopped myself from saying that I am going to say now is Unit 1, pretty easy. I get it. I just want to make sure people know what the process is, how to do their post, how to upload the assignments, how to, take the quiz, have 30 hours, this, that, and a baseball bat. That's what that unit's about. Second unit, not really hard, some new concepts, strings, then loops, right? But what do I give you for the assignments? I give you those famous problems. I give you the fizz buzz, I give you the rainfall. They're not really long. They take some thought, but once you figure them out, they're not so bad to code. Now, a lot of people have it in their brain, oh, this course is easy. I got this Python thing licked. And they wait until 3 days before the end before they start reading the slides for Unit 3. Those people get screwed, okay? You went through the slides. You've gone through what you have to do. Those people with 3 days left see the slides. They're 3 weeks long instead of 2 weeks long. And then they see the assignment and they go, whoa. They thought they were going to get some little paragraph assignment that they could do in 20 minutes again. And that's not the case. Don't be that person. You're not, because if you're listening to me at the end of this video, it means you watch the whole thing. So that means I'm preaching to the choir. There's people who are going to get messed up because they're going to say, hey, I know that Python. They think they're Johnny Hard Drive. Johnny Hard Drive's in trouble when Unit 3 comes rolling down the line. Okay? Johnny Hard Drive gets in trouble in Unit 5 too. But we'll talk about that when we get there. All right? Johnny Hard Drive, who thinks he knows how to program and he's all cool, he's about to get his comeuppance. Because with 2 days left, he's going to go to Unit 3 and go, yep, and it's not going to get done on time. All right? Don't be Johnny Hard Drive. That's the moral of this story. All right? So you guys keep rolling along. Keep doing what you're doing. Hopefully, as the semester rolls along, once per unit, I'm going to get one of these contemporary live videos shot for you guys so I can discuss issues and things that are going on with our class fall of 2020. And we can do some other things along those lines. Go watch the Euler video. I always think Euler is a really good thing to practice because when you're learning a computer language, it's like playing a musical instrument. You've got to practice. You've got to practice. You've got to practice. I'm teaching a Java class for the computer science department this semester. And I had a student tell me the other night, he goes, yeah, I did one example of arrays and I think I get the concept. And I said to him, I go, yeah, that's great. I get the concept of a trumpet. But I can't play one because I never practiced, okay? You've got to practice with this stuff. Do examples, then do it again. Then get rid of the code and do it again. Practice, try things out. You got to code. The way you get good at coding is by coding. And as simple and dopey as it sounds, the analogy I always run to is musical instrument. Don't get good at playing a musical instrument unless you play a musical instrument. And you practice and you practice and you practice. And then after a while, it'll come to you easy and you'll be like, oh, I'm glad I did all that practice and now this is easy. Now I can utilize what I want to do for the real purpose. When you are practicing a guitar or a piano, what do you want to do? You want to play songs, right? So eventually you get good enough that, hey, you have some facility and you can play some songs. Same thing with programming. You're doing the dopey stuff right now. It's like learning your scales in an instrument. But soon you're going to have facility with range and looping, and you'll know how to handle data, and you'll know how to read in files, and blah, blah, blah. And then what will you be able to do? Solve problems. That's why you're learning a computer language, so you can solve problems and codify your logic. Well, those problems, that's like your songbook, right? If you have problems to solve, that's like learning how to play songs with your instrument. So that's why I always love Project Euler, because it's 700 problems for people to practice not just their programming skills, but their problem-solving skills. All right, I got to get off my soapbox, or I'll sit here all night talking to you guys. Practice this stuff. Try this stuff over and over. You're ahead of the game if you're watching this video to the end, because that means you've been keeping up and you've been doing things. So good for you. And you've still got 8 days before the end of the unit. So get all this stuff coded up. Play around with stuff. And everything's going to be good. You're going to get a kick out of Unit 4 because that's when I bring the computer science back and I explain what I do. First, I teach you the language, and I kind of try to get the computer science out of the way. We're going to bring it all back in Unit 4. And we're going to learn about searching and sorting and the analysis and efficiency of algorithms and some different stuff like that. Then in Unit 5, we're going to learn about object orientation. And if that sounds crazy, don't let it. We're going to demystify everything in Unit 5. Then in Unit 6, we're going to learn about these things called data structures, which is usually the second class you would take in a computer science curriculum. That's not hard either. It's actually kind of fun. So you're in good shape. You got no worries. And it feels like we just got started, but we're in week 7. So we're almost halfway through. In the middle of next week, we will be halfway through this semester, which is absolutely bizarre because it feels like we just started. All right. I'm going too long. You guys have a great night, and I will talk to you later. Be good. Bye.